Hey, you almost caught me, you caught me slipping, but you also caught me in the middle of cleaning up this Desert Delight nectarine tree, getting it ready for next year. We're getting it trimmed up and all set for what should be a fantastic harvest this coming year. So today I'm going to walk you through the entire life cycle of this Desert Delight tree. I'm going to give you the history. I'm going to show you when it was very young, and I'm going to show you through it going through its seasons, starting from before it even had any leaves or flowers to leaves to little small fruit to mature fruit. And then now what we're doing is we're getting it trimmed up and we're getting it ready for next year.
Stick around to the end, and I'm going to give you 4 tips on why now is the right time to trim your nectarines, plums, peaches, and cherries. And if we get a lot of likes on this video, I'll do another similar video on this 4-in-1 stone fruit tree that you see here with Sahara in the background. As I've covered in other videos, this nectarine tree was part of a handful of trees that I first planted in my orchard back in 2020. So bear with me for a minute as I walk you through the history of this incredible Desert Delight nectarine tree. This tree is very prolific, going from having about 30 pieces of fruit in the first year, 2020, to over 100 by the time we got to 2022. And now look at it. Here it is in 2023 with hundreds upon hundreds of pieces of nectarine on this fruit tree. One of the things you'll get out of this video is you can't have too much of a good thing, and there are repercussions for having too many pieces of fruit on a tree. In 2023, we had major damage to a couple of branches, very severe breakage that you see right here. And frankly, family, I was devastated. I had to pull myself together and figure out a resolution.
It's 2 options, either to cut it off or try to reconnect it like it's a graft. See if it'll hold. So one is just lopping off a lot of branches. That was obvious. The less obvious and the next step was whether or not I wanted to cut off this entire branch. There's 2 of them. One here that is highly damaged and the other one here that was, I would say, this 80% ripped off. This is about 20-25%. And that's what I came up with. So trying to make the most out of a situation. Overall, I want to save the tree. I want the tree to be healthy. It's such a good producing tree. Look, there's still hundreds of nectarines on it. So as long as this tree can make it through, we'll trim back the branches. We'll learn from this mistake. We won't let this happen again.
And here is the fruit, so much of the fruit that we lost from those broken branches. But as I said, the main thing was saving the tree.
Stay tuned to the end. I'm also going to share with you why it's super important to get this tree, this nectarine Desert Delight tree, trimmed up right now before we head into winter.
For this next section, I thought I'd give you a little bit of the sights and sounds and the vibe of the orchard from January of 2024 and just following the life cycle of this Desert Delight nectarine tree for this year. Here's some of that footage right now.
Desert Delight nectarine tree. Bees are all over it. This is late February 2024. Incredible activity. This tree always produces really well for me. Had a significant limb break, a couple of limbs that broke last year, and it's rebounded really nicely. Look at that, beautiful. And just one more look. I mean, these trees have incredible healing power. Many of you have seen a video that I put out a little bit ago, how I damaged this tree. Matter of fact, I did a short, the last short that I did, showed a little bit of the damage. And I came and I triaged the tree. I bandaged it up and the branches fused back together. And now it's creating this beautiful, beautiful pink flowers. And so I just point this out to say that a tree has very natural healing powers. You know, the Marvel movies where you have the Guardians of the Galaxies with Groot and how he'll lose a limb and the limb will grow back. I never really fully understood the significance of it until having an orchard and actually seeing it in action and seeing how trees can heal if they have a good foundation of health, if they have built up their immune systems. They will actually rebound and do quite well. So that's really cool to see. Just an example of, you know, again, keep your trees healthy and they will respond for you, even if they take some damage, even if they get some pressure from the elements, if they get pressure from insects, they can bounce back from that.
And after the pollinators do their thing, and they got busy this spring, then we start to see the leaves come in. This happens right before we start to see the evidence of the fruit setting. By the time we get to April, we see the little guys start to form. And if you look carefully there, you'll see lots of little fruit beginning to take shape and starting to get a little bit of color.
All right, now we're looking on the inside of the Desert Delight. The fruit is starting to grow, starting to put on color a little bit. This is the perfect time that you want to actually pick the fruit off. And you want to do it now for a couple of reasons. One, if we left all the fruit here to grow to the tree's devices, it will actually overwhelm the tree and break branches, which is what happened previously, which is why you see this apparatus with the pulleys keeping everything up. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to make that same mistake. We learn from our mistakes. Number two is that we want to make sure that the resources get focused in the right areas. And if there's a less amount of fruit on the tree, it will focus to growing that smaller set of fruit, and the fruit will be bigger and will taste better. More nutrients will get into it. It'll have better flavor. So those are two reasons why we want to thin our nectarine trees when they're overloaded with fruit. The other thing to think about, just giving you another look from another angle. It's still hard to see from the, maybe from the camera, but from the naked eye, it's quite a bit, which is nice, especially knowing what this tree went through last year. But the other thing is, right now, you don't want it to get much bigger than this because it's going to be harder to pull off. So right now, you can just kind of get in there, twist it very easily, and it should just twist right off like that. But you don't want it to get to a point where that stem gets stronger, and it's going to be more traumatic on the tree the bigger the fruit gets, and the more entrenched that stem and the more mature that stem gets on the tree. So now is a great time to get them off. Once they're about nickel to quarter size, somewhere in that neighborhood, get them off your tree. The last thing is you want to use the 6-inch rule. You want to take the tip of your thumb and your pinky and space it out and not have fruit in between the tip of your thumb and your pinky. When you're, that's sort of using your hand and your appendages as a ruler. All right, so 6 inches between each one is ideal, between each fruit.
Even with the thinning that we did, there is still too much fruit on this tree. The branches are way down. There's just way too much fruit. We gotta do much better next year in making sure we get more fruit off the tree. The fact is, there's more fruit here than we can eat or put in pies or possibly consume. And if we have less fruit, the fruit will be larger and the taste will be sweeter. But hey, this is a luxury problem. At the end of the day, you'd much rather try to figure out how to make your tree less productive than trying to figure out how to make it produce more.
These things are just about ready. What you want to do is kind of squeeze the shoulder. The shoulders are the portion of the fruit that's closest to the stem, to the branch. And if they have a little give, that means they're ripe. The other thing I look out for is for bird pressure. The birds seem to recognize when they're ripe. These things are close, maybe a week away. Oh, that one's super close. I might try that. Ooh, I'm grabbing this one. This one had a little bit of give. We're gonna try that. But this tree has just been a marvel. Incredible recovery. The branches got separated from too much fruit. I'm pushing the boundaries again. I can't help it, but not as many fruit. Well, there's a lot of fruit on here. There is a lot of, look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. Let me back up a little bit. Try not to fall. Look at that. Tree goes all the way up. Man. But I think I've thinned it enough not to apply too much pressure to the tree. And again, they're about ready to come off of there.
As we wrap this section, the main thing I want to share is that the fruit actually did not taste as good as it did 2 years ago when there was less fruit on the tree, and we actually missed a lot of the ripe fruit due to being on vacation.
All right, let's get oriented on the Desert Delight tree. It goes up very high. It goes up, I'm guessing, 25 feet. Yeah, maybe 30. Let's call it 25. The right side hangs over a little more. It's a little lopsided. I'll show you in a second. Hanging over a little bit into the neighbor's property, crowding out this lemon tree right next to it. It is becoming a very big tree. It's a tree that, as we've mentioned, produces a lot of fruit, more than what we need. So we're going to cut it back, make sure the fruit is at a very manageable height. Okay, let's look at it from this angle. You'll notice the tree kind of leans to the right. And that is partially because this branch coming up here, that branch, extends further to the right. It's drawing to the sun. So more of the growth is happening on the side facing the sun. Less so on the other side. Try to navigate around. Back up a little bit. Less so on this side. But again, it goes up pretty high. And what we're going to do is put some really serious cuts. Look how thick this branch is right here. This is the tallest branch that's going up, all the way up. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, let's take a look. We can see we've cut it down very significantly. Look at that. Got it down to about 20 feet, 15 to 20. Yeah, probably closer to 15. Created a lot more space between the lemon tree. That looks good.
All right, so now we've got it much more manageable, and in just a second, I'll give you 4 reasons why we wanted to get it pruned right now. And we'll come back and do a couple of things. One, we'll cut all the dead wood off. We'll cut all the wood that has no leaves growing on it. And we'll clear out some of the crossing branches so that there's nice airflow within the tree. Finally, we will strip all the leaves off and we will use the leaves as mulch, and we'll put them around the tree wells. And we'll take the branches and we'll run it through the chipper, and they will also be used as mulch to feed the fruit trees across the orchard.
Okay, how does it look to you? Can you see the difference? We've got it trimmed up pretty well, and we've got it set up and ready to go for the upcoming season. Reason number one, we want to be able to reach the fruit. Take a look at it. We now have the tree at a much more manageable height to be able to actually reach the fruit. We don't want the fruit up so high that we can't enjoy the fruit that we're growing in our backyards. Another reason, if we want to protect this tree from birds and insects and put a net over it, it is now much easier being at about 15 feet than what it was being at about 25 feet. So we can protect the fruit much better than we could before. The next reason is we want to make sure we're in a backyard and we don't follow conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom says you put trees 15, 20 feet apart. We're not doing that. We need to put a lot of trees in a small amount of space. We're doing about 6 to 8 feet apart for most of our trees. So with that in mind, when a tree gets too big, it is shading out the trees on each side, and it's preventing those other trees from actually growing as healthy as they could and producing as much fruit as they could. So we need to spread the love a little bit, and we need to make sure that the trees on each side are getting the proper amount of sun and spacing as well. So that's another important reason why we needed to cut this tree down. And then the last one I'll leave you with is this is a deciduous tree. It is a tree where the leaves are going to fall off coming up later in fall, and it's going to go to sleep. And when it wakes up, it is going to put on flowers. That's the first thing it's going to do, and set fruit. And then the leaves are going to come in behind it, as you saw in the video. So it becomes very important to give it a little bit of time. We've made some pretty severe cuts. We've cut about 30% of the branches off of this tree. So because we've cut so much, it needs a little bit of time to heal. And so it's going to have the next couple of months before it goes dormant to be able to recover, start to put out some new growth and shoots, and that will set us up really well for the upcoming season. So there you have it, the Desert Delight Nectarine tree. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe. We got it all set up for next year, and we'll see you next time.